Without humans knowing, giants have been stealing children during the night to eat them. But after one little girl spots a giant, things change. It is midnight in the city of London, and a young girl named Sophie is making sure all the doors and windows of her orphanage are properly closed. This is the hour known as the witching hour, when people disappear. As Sophie takes her precautions, a massive shadow moves through the town. While the other children at the orphanage sleep, Sophie stays up in her bed reading. The orphanage cat sees something and goes out onto the balcony. Sophie follows the cat outside and sees a giant man in the street. The giant notices that Sophie has seen him. Scared, Sophie hides in her blanket, but the giant reaches into the orphanage and grabs Sophie along with her blanket. Carrying Sophie, the giant starts to leave the town. He avoids being seen by other people using a series of clever tricks. After he gets out of the town, the giant runs across the countryside toward the cliffs, taking massive leaps with his long legs. Finally, he takes a huge leap and jumps into some clouds. They arrive in a strange land where the giant carries Sophie into his house. The giant hangs Sophie up in her blanket and begins chopping up some vegetables for a stew. Sophie tries to escape when the giant isn't looking, but she makes a noise and he hears her. The giant speaks to Sophie and tells her that she can't escape unless she has wings. Sophie asks him where they are, and he says they are in giant country. More giants are heard outside, and Sophie begs this one not to eat her. The giant laughs at her and tells her that he is not a mean giant who eats people. He would never eat her. Sophie argues that he is a monster because he took her. The giant says that he feels very bad for doing that, especially for her mother and father. Sophie says that she's an orphan, so she doesn't have any parents. She asks the giant if the other giants are nice like him, and he says that they are not. They would eat her without a second thought. He also adds that compared to him, the other giants are massive. He is a small one in giant country. Sophie asks him why he brought her here, and he says that he had to. If he didn't, she would tell everyone that she saw a giant, and he would be caught by the humans and put in a zoo. Sophie promises him that she won't tell anyone and asks him to take her back home, but he doesn't believe her. He says she will now live the rest of her life here with him. Sophie says that if he doesn't let her go, she will run away. He warns her that if she ever leaves this house without him, the other giants will eat her. The giant takes out a jar with a blue light moving inside it, and Sophie asks about it. The giant says it's a dream, and Sophie says that dreams aren't real things. The giant reads Sophie's book, and Sophie falls asleep. As she sleeps, the giant goes into a deeper part of his house, where there are a lot of jars with lights moving inside them. He grabs a jar with a red light and begins working on it. Sophie wakes up and finds that the giant is sleeping. She takes the chance to escape through a window. However, as she is running away, a much bigger giant appears in front of her and grabs her. Sophie screams for help, but the friendly giant just closes the door to his cave house because he is helpless. The massive giant flips Sophie up and swallows her. Sophie wakes up and realizes this was all a dream, that the friendly giant specifically gave her to prove to her that dreams are real things. The next morning, the giant is drinking a fizzy drink called Frobscottle, and Sophie notices that the bubbles in the drink float downward, not upward like they do in normal drinks. She points this out, and the giant says that upward floating bubbles cause nasty burps. Sophie argues that downward floating bubbles probably come out in a much worse way, but the giant doesn't seem to mind that. He lets out a massive gas that lifts him off the ground like a rocket. He thoroughly enjoys it. Just then, one of the massive human-eating giants arrives, and the friendly giant hides Sophie to protect her. During the tricky situation, Sophie hides inside a vegetable and very narrowly avoids being eaten after the friendly giant convinces the other giant that he hates vegetables and only eats human beings. Afterward, the friendly giant takes Sophie into the deeper parts of his cave house and helps her clean up. He gives her a bunch of clothes to pick out a new outfit. Sophie puts on a red jacket she finds, and the giant gives her a strange, almost sad look when he sees her. Sophie asks him what's wrong, and he doesn't answer. He places Sophie in a comfortable room inside a tree and says that he is going out to do his job, which is catching dreams. Sophie says she wants to go with him, but he strongly refuses. Sophie looks at some of the dreams in the jars and sees them take form. She stubbornly insists on going with the friendly giant, and he finally agrees. They step outside of the cave house and find all the mean giants sleeping. They try to sneak past them, but they wake up and grab the friendly giant by the leg. Sophie rushes and hides in a broken old car, while all the mean giants bully the friendly giant. They use him as a football and throw him around. Sophie can't believe that he is not standing up for himself. Suddenly it starts raining, and all the mean giants run and hide because they hate water. The friendly giant puts Sophie in his bag and runs away. Without him knowing, he accidentally leaves Sophie's blanket behind, and the other giants smell it and realize that he has a human with him. Sophie and the giant arrive in a place that the giant calls Dream Country. Sophie sees that the stars above are shining brightly. The giant says that on a clear enough night, his massive ears can hear music coming from the stars. He says that he also hears insects talking in the ground, ladybugs walking on the leaves, plants and leaves talking to each other, and all the secret whisperings of the world. Sophie notices the reflection of the giant tree in the water and sees that it is full of dreams. The giant says that at one point somebody called him the Big Friendly Giant. He jumps into the water and enters a different dimension. He asks Sophie to follow him, and she does. They both stand in front of the tree where all dreams begin. The Big Friendly Giant notices a golden dream and says that it's a very rare type. He tries to catch it, but it keeps getting away from him. The dream slows down near Sophie, and he says the dream knows her. He adds that when he listens to it, he can hear her voice. He puts the dream in a jar, labeling it Sophie's Dream. Sophie helps the giant catch dreams until she comes across a red one, which is a nightmare. The giant grabs the red dream and explains that the red dream is one of regret. It shows people the horrible things they have done and tells them there is no forgiveness. The giant pulls Sophie out of the other dimension, and they get on their way. During the walk, Sophie says that from now on she will call the Big Friendly Giant BFG. Sophie and BFG arrive in London, where BFG uses his giant trumpet to blow happy dreams toward people while they sleep. He tells the happy dreams to Sophie, and she loves them. As they are walking back home, they see all the other giants going out to hunt for human children to eat. Sophie says they have to figure out a way to put an end to this. During this conversation, they also figure out that Sophie dropped her blanket back in Giant Country, and suddenly BFG's face becomes serious. Next, Sophie wakes up in front of the orphanage. BFG says that because they dropped her blanket in Giant Country, the other giants now know of her existence, so she is no longer safe with him. Sophie insists that they can stop the other giants together, but BFG tells her a story of how he once took another boy to Giant Country. The boy saw BFG just like Sophie did, so BFG had to take him. The red jacket that Sophie found belonged to that boy. After some time, the other giants found out about the boy, and BFG did not bring him back home in time to save him from their anger. BFG says that he won't make that mistake with Sophie, and he leaves despite Sophie's protests. Sophie sits on the balcony of the orphanage and speaks to BFG, knowing that his giant ears can still hear her. She says she can sense him nearby, and to get him to reveal himself, she jumps off the balcony. BFG catches her. The two return to Giant Country and begin thinking up a plan to stop the other giants. Just then, the mean giants arrive and start looking for Sophie all over the house. They destroy BFG's work in the process. Sophie barely avoids being spotted by the giants, and finally BFG decides he's had enough. He chases the mean giants out of his home with a flaming rod. Meanwhile, Sophie is hiding in the room that BFG made for the last boy he brought to Giant Country. She spots a picture of the queen and comes up with a plan. They create a custom dream for the queen, which shows giants eating children and the army stopping them. The dream also includes Sophie and BFG. When she wakes up from that dream, Sophie and BFG will meet her, and she will be likely to listen to them. They arrive at the palace and blow the dream toward the queen while she sleeps. The queen wakes up and tells the dream to her assistant, who says that it is strange because children have in fact been mysteriously disappearing across the country. As the queen's assistant goes to close the curtains, she finds Sophie standing there, and the queen knows her from the dream. Sophie tells the queen everything, and the queen believes her because she just saw it all in her dream. Sophie then introduces BFG to the queen, who meets him awkwardly. Next, the queen informs the generals about the giants while setting up a lunch for BFG. Because of his giant manners, the lunch is an unusual and funny event. BFG even makes the queen and all her servants and generals try frobscoddle, which gives them incredible hits. Next, BFG leads the royal army to Giant Country. He creates a dream of regret to give the other mean giants so that they would wake up full of remorse and be easy targets for the army. Sophie and BFG sit and talk about Sophie's golden dream. Sophie asks what the dream is about, and BFG says that it's Sophie's dream of a normal life. He says she will have it, but not here in Giant Country. She must go back to her world. Sophie asks if BFG will still hear her whenever she calls out to him, and in reply, he just points to his massive ears. The time comes to blow the dream toward the giants, and BFG realizes he's forgotten his trumpet back in London. When he's not looking, Sophie grabs the dream jar and takes it right into the middle of the sleeping giants. She is about to open it when one giant wakes up. Sophie manages to break the jar and fill the remaining giants with regretful dreams, but the first one remains awake and normal. He is about to attack Sophie when BFG steps in and defends her. The giant prepares to hit BFG when the royal army arrives and stops him. The royal army captures and ties up all the mean giants and begins to carry them away, finally freeing Giant Country from their fear. The mean giants are carried to a remote island from which there is no escape. The only thing they are given to eat for the rest of their days is vegetables. They are not happy about it. Next, Sophie wakes up at the Queen's palace and is greeted by her assistant. Meanwhile, BFG now has Giant Country all to himself. He is growing a garden full of delicious vegetables and working on writing a book about all his adventures. Back at the palace, Sophie says, "Good morning, BFG," to the air, knowing full well that BFG can hear her wherever he is, and sure enough, he does. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.